Today's video, I'll be covering what's the difference between a network engineer and a network technician. These two career fields in tech are kind of interchangeable names that you will hear when it comes to landing your first job in tech. But what is this ending part between the technician versus engineer? So the whole point of this video is to kind of explain to you the main difference between the two. So when I first see this word of network engineer and network technician, the first thing that comes to my mind is the network engineer is more of a higher level role. That's just what it's going to be, right? Network engineering usually means you are doing more things in this role, which is hardware side. So there's two parts of networking, as everyone knows. There's the actual configuration where you're actually adding the commands to the actual devices on the interface, or to the CLI. And the other option is that you're actually touching the physical equipment in either the data center or the hub to actually wire the devices, move devices around, rack and stack devices, decommission devices. These kind of things are two different things. There's a layer one side and then obviously the IP side. So they are interchangeable because this may sound crazy. You will see network engineers doing layer one duties. You will see network technician doing configuration. So you might be wondering, why is there a difference? And truthfully, guys, the difference really exists mainly because companies don't really know how to name things. And honestly, the name really doesn't matter at the end of the day. What matters is the actual position and what you're actually doing in the job. Because this is where people get things confused. They think, oh, because I'm a network technician, people are really obsessed with titles. I don't know what it is. Just because you're titled something like a network technician, they say, I'm not worthy of this. I'm only a technician, I'm not an engineer. Or some people are network engineers, but they're doing things as a network technician. So they're like, oh, I'm a network engineer. So that's the difference. That's the thing that companies kind of mix up with people is the title. So don't worry about the title. I understand that there's a title difference, but it's not the end of the world. So what does a network technician do day to day? So network technician, their main focus is wiring equipment, troubleshooting hardware, cleaning the fiber, replacing optics, rolling the fiber, swapping cables around, migrating the physical device, changing that to a new device. And usually network technicians work hand in hand with network engineers. All the time I work with network technicians. Network technicians are usually the ones in the data center that actually deal with the physical stuff. And whenever, like, for example, one context is we have to do something called an RMA, which is basically we have a bad SFP. So me as a network engineer, we have monitoring tools. I was using SolarWinds. I saw that this particular port was down. I investigated it. I brought in the network tech who was on site. I'm the network engineer that was remote. I went ahead and asked them, hey, can you swap this optic and see if it works? And then the optic worked, right, with the new optic. So that means the old optic most likely is bad, which is a very common thing to happen. So I told the network tech, we got to do an RMA. We did this whole process. But me as a network engineer, I'm the one remote, or maybe in an office where I do all the configurations on the device remotely. That's kind of what that is, because when you work in networking, you have to remember, us as the network engineers, we can work remote. Usually network technicians don't have the ability to work remote, although I have seen some network techs work remote. The way that works for them, though, is maybe they'll be remote, but maybe like occasionally they'll have to go to a specific location to do the actual work, whether it's the hardware stuff, whatever, right? So that's kind of how that goes there. When it comes to general network, as a network engineer, we focus mainly on the IP side. What that means is focusing on the configurations of the devices, the switches, the firewalls, the routers, the access points, focusing on the actual configurations there. And what that looks like is our duties is we have to write these configurations, which usually have to follow a procedure. Whether that looks like we have to create a method or procedure, right? The actual MOP, which is a set of the configuration that has to be reviewed. And then we actually go ahead and we dump the configs or add the configs into the device. Usually the device is already going to be there, or if it's a new device, we'll work with the network techs to actually install the equipment there. This is how usually big companies operate. And the reason they have network engineers and network techs is because engineers can just focus on the configurations, network techs can focus on layer one side. If a company's big enough, they have multiple locations, and they're going to have network techs staffed at those particular locations, while the network engineer can be remote and work on all those locations remotely. That is the big difference, right? We're doing configurations like OSPF, configurations like BGP, like STP, all these kind of configurations that we're doing those remotely. That is the big difference. If you're ever wondering what's the difference between network engineer and technician, that's what it is, okay? That's the main thing. So now let's talk about salary. So salary is another big concept that everyone talks about. How much do network techs make? How much do network engineers make? On average, network engineers make more than network technicians. Network technicians is a position on average, at least in my market, you can make anywhere from I would say 60 to like 90K for that network technician role. Network engineers can make anywhere from 80 to I would say 120. Then obviously senior engineers can go up higher. Network technicians, there really isn't a senior technician role typically. It's just going to be network tech one, and maybe like a manager, but there isn't really a senior role for it. So the growth potential with network tech is you become a network tech, you make your 70, 80K, and then you eventually switch to becoming a network engineer. That's the typical roadmap that I would follow. So I honestly think being a network tech is a phenomenal field to work in. I think it's underrated. I think it's quite fun to be working in data centers or working in a hub or like a closet where you got to touch equipment. And then you also get to work hand in hand with other network engineers, which is really awesome, right? You get the ability to speak with them. You get to maybe hop on a bridge call with them and actually see potentially what configurations they're doing on the devices and actually get to speak with them. You get to learn the vernacular, what they do, all that kind of stuff. And I think it's going to be really good context that you can use to eventually get yourself to a network engineering position, because obviously network engineering, we focus more on the configurations. Now going into certifications now. So do you need certifications for either of those roles? For either one of these? No, you don't. But I do recommend, obviously, for network engineering, CCNA is going to be much more valuable. For a network technician, you don't even really need any certification, to be honest. Even with engineering, network engineering, you don't need certifications. You can break into tech without certifications, right? But network technician especially, I would not waste my time getting a CCNA if I want to get into this role. I would try to, get the skill sets. I would potentially, if you want, this may be a field where buying equipment may be a good idea, but I would spend a lot of time using Packet Tracer, learning about the fiber types, learning about the cable types, learning about how to cut a cable, how use crimpers, all these kind of things, how to punch RJ45 ports, how to do all these things. That way, when you become a network tech, none of this stuff is going to be like, what the heck is this, right? Learning how to use a console port, how to access a device, how to shut off a device, how to reboot it, that kind of stuff that network techs do. I will learn how to do that, right? So both fields are really good. Network engineering, if you're going to be that, you're definitely going to have to focus mainly on the certifications, on learning all these, learning about the OSI model, learning how to troubleshoot a device, learning about all these typical things. That's kind of what you're going to be focusing on. Learning about all these protocols, right? All the routing protocols, learning about VLAN, learning about just general like architecture and design of networks, right? Is going to be a spine leaf architecture, because that's kind of what engineers do as well. We identify how can we design a network as well. So that's also another thing that we can do. So those are the main two differences about the two. Okay, so let's talk about the mistakes that people make when it comes to either one of these fields. So I got straight into network engineering. I didn't work as a network tech. And looking back, I wish I kind of maybe potentially did a little bit of network tech just to get some context. But thankfully, I started as a network engineer, which is absolutely amazing. But some mistakes that people make is they stay as network techs and they don't want to move up. Sometimes they get into this field where they're making 70, 80, maybe 90K a year. They're making a good salary, right? It's a phenomenal field to get into. But eventually, if you want more career progression, the only real way to get out of this field is to maybe get into a network engineering role. If you don't want to be in the network engineering side, maybe get into like a managerial data center role. So maybe working at a data center and being a manager there. That's kind of what that would look like. So because data centers are a much grander scale, as you already know. They're the size of like multiple football fields, and they're building data centers all over the United States. So you could work at one of those environments, actually get to learn about how these data centers are built, how to go about it. There's a lot to learn. There's fiber pulling. There's lots of interesting things in these massive data centers at scale, right? Or you can just go into the IP side and become a network engineer, right? And that's something that you can also do as well. Especially if you want to work remote, I would say network engineering is much more lax with that. But I want to preface this. Those racking and stacking skills are going to be extremely important, because I see a lot of network engineering roles where they're hybrid, right? If the company is small enough, right, they may have you do the configurations and do the hardware side. So it's almost like you're a vertically integrated network engineer, which is really good because you get to see both sides, you get to maintain both sides. There isn't like the constant back and forth. And as you network engineers know, if you are a network engineer watching, when we talk with network techs, the back and forth that we have, like, hey, is this port down? Is it not? Okay, why? Would you check the fiber? Do this? All that can just be done by one person, which is really cool. But usually bigger companies, it's not going to make sense because you would have to fly to certain locations. I know a lot of network techs, which is really cool. They get to travel the world, right? They get to travel all around the United States. Some of them even get to travel outside the US. I know network techs that go to like Spain, and like whenever they're building a data center there, they'll go and do that. So like this is like really interesting stuff that people don't see, is that it's completely different. So this is how I see things. If you're brand new, network tech would be a good starting point. Or also you could start off with network engineering. But if you also are tired of working behind a screen all day, if you don't like the idea of sitting at a desk, looking at a screen all day, then I would say definitely consider being a network tech or even like what they call a data center technician. One of those two. I think either one is a phenomenal field to get in. I mean, they're both the same thing for the most part, but you don't have to sit behind a desk as often. You're around all these interesting devices that are costing over hundreds, maybe even millions of dollars that you get to touch and look at and maintain and troubleshoot and all that stuff. So it's really fascinating. And I think that's something that you could definitely do. But network engineering, you're pretty much going to be behind a desk all day. You're doing configurations and all that stuff, and you are going to be doing that. So both are phenomenal fields. Pick your poison. Pick whichever one you want to get into. If you're new, pick network tech potentially, then work your way up to engineering. If you have no desire of being a network tech, then I'll go straight to network engineering. The only thing is that if you're going to be going straight to network engineering, you will have to learn a little bit more, learn a little bit more things about configurations and all this stuff. But either way, both are phenomenal fields. So if you guys need more help on exactly how to break into the field of networking step by step, feel free to click the link in the description. I have a guide on exactly how to do this step by step. I have a mentorship program where I help students go from making maybe working help desk or maybe other IT fields to or even non-IT fields to becoming a networking professional, right? Whether that's a network tech, network administrator, network engineer. So if you're interested in that, click the link in the description. But with that being said, I do appreciate your guys' time. If you guys like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you guys want to subscribe, go ahead and click the subscribe button. But with that being said, I do appreciate you guys' time, and I hope you guys all have a good rest of your day, and peace.